All right, it's at 7:01. I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Cedar Springs Public Library Board. Let's do a quick roll call. We'll start doing that now, so we'll go around. Mark? Here. Michelle? Here. John? Rosen? Here. Tony? Heidi? Here. John? Ron? Here. I'll get it down. And Tim here as well. So we are all here. Yeah, maybe. Let's do the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So this item is approval of the agenda. There's a motion in one direction or the other for that.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Okay, I'll second that. Thank you, John. Any discussion? See none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. That passes. Thank you. And then the next item would be the consent agenda, and I'll take any motions about that.
I'd make a motion that we pass the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you, Tony. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. And that motion carries as well. All right, and then director's report.
So for a lot of this, we'll be covering this in section 8 of the agenda for ongoing new business. So, that's where we'll do a lot of the discussions. Due to the price increase in rent, the library no longer has a storage unit. I myself and staff have been cleaning out and organizing the 2 closets in this community room, so that way we can make more room for our stuff in those closets. All the stuff from the unit is now in one of those 2 closets, and that'll be easier for us to access. We closed the library on Monday, October 14th for staff in-service training. It was a half a day, and we covered topics such as the Michigan Library Privacy Act, and other professional standards like the Library Code of Ethics and the Library Bill of Rights. And we also had a refresher course on our Sierra ILS, which is the software that lets you check in, check out, all that other stuff. I attended the MLA annual conference in Traverse City last week, including the small and strategic pre-conference. That was for small and rural libraries. It was very beneficial, very nice to meet a lot of small town directors from across the state. At the full conference, I was part of 3 different presentations, including So You've Been Hacked, when at my last job, we had a cybersecurity issue, and I was the crisis communicator on that. So I talked about that. My presentation on stay interviews again, and then I led a discussion with some colleagues about what sustainability in libraries looks like. In the director's report, there's a copy of a check. That is Positive Pay is working perfectly. That check is not going to be cashed. It is stopped dead in its tracks. The city finance manager alerted me that another fraudulent check was trying to get cashed, but Positive Pay caught it immediately, ran it by us. We were like, no, that's not right. And so everything stopped like dead in its tracks. I don't even think anything came out of our account. So Positive Pay is working exactly as it should be. And then last Monday, I attended a webinar called from the Michigan State University Extension program called Fiscally Ready Communities, from Fundamentals to Best Practices. It covered topics like defining fiscal sustainability, so investments, fund balances, long-term planning, things like that, and different tools we can use to measure our fiscal health. I would like to meet with the treasurer and the finance committee and maybe come up with a plan for that, so we can kind of take a look at where we're at financially and what we can do to improve or just be better at it. The Friends Red Flannel Day book sale went great. They raised $1,000 in 2 days. That's pretty good. So thank you, Friends. I'd like to put a call out to the public. If anyone is interested in becoming a friend of the library, please join us and them at our next meeting on January 14th, 2025 at 6 p.m. We would love to see some new faces in that organization. So again, if you can make it, it's January 14th, 2025 at 6 p.m. A new local organization called Family Futures reached out and wanted to do a parent cafe here in the community room. This was about a couple weeks ago. Or no, last month. This was mid-September. They are basically an organization that focuses on early childcare, from early literacy to health to tips and tricks that parents can do at home. I think it's a really great resource. They basically come in, they run the program, and then they answer any questions. They bring the experts. We just provide the space. We plan on hosting more of these in the future. And I encourage, again, this is to the public, I encourage families with young children to check out familyfutures.org for more information, because it's a very useful resource for a lot of different aspects of child rearing. And then for our programming stats, so we're doing really well with our 3 fall reading challenges. As you can see here, we've got 83 youth participating, 16 teens, which is, I don't know if you guys know teens, but that's that's a great number. And 40 adults. We had 134 people come to our senior neighbors, senior exercise groups. We're still working with senior neighbors to try to set up a regular technology class. They're just having an issue trying to find an instructor for that, but once that happens, we're moving forward with that. 254 people attended story time, 70 of which were at our Red Flannel story time. So on the Friday before Red Flannel, we host a story time here. We invite the Red Flannel Court. They come up. Miss Melissa does a really good job making them do funny and silly dances for the kids. And she wrote a book that she reads about Red Flannel Day, and it's actually a really good book. So I wish we could circulate it. We had our quilters that meet weekly, 50 people attended that. We had 200 students visit from the CTA. We had a Pokemon program that had 22 people. There was a planner program that was hosted by Aurelia Tilbrook. We will have a checkup going up to her in the next financial report. So keep a lookout for that. And then we redid the sourdough class, and 20 people came for that. And then of course, 255 people did, I Spy, Find Dewey, things like that. I just realized this afternoon that I forgot to put the grand total, but the grand total was 1,087 people attended our programs last month. So 1,087. Now that school's back in session, we're kind of bumping up a little bit on the study room reservations. They're now up 26. They were 21 over the summer. Now they're 26. And we had 8 community room rentals last month. These are the new patron stats for the use from September. These are after the purge from August. And then we, as you can see, we've added about 40 people this month, or last month, which is nice. And then all of our circulation stats are right there.
Can I ask a question about the Red Flannel book?
Yes.
Is it something that did they self-publish it or anything?
No, it's literally she typed it up and she hand drew and it's in one of those folders that just kind of bound folder that she reads like a book.
There's a few places in.
We're encouraging her. We're like, you should get this published. This is really good.
That'd be cool. Awesome, thank you.
question.
Sure.
James, you said that you posted the position that you were looking for.
Yes,
Um, where did you post it?
we posted it on Facebook and I posted it to the Michigan Libraries listserv.
Oh, you didn't put it on our website.
It's on our Facebook page.
It's on our Facebook page, but I,
Libraries website.
I'm not in charge of the website right now. We're replacing the person who was in charge of the website. So I don't, if they forgot to put it up there,
Yeah,
that's fine. But we had 7 applicants for 4 interviews this week. So we're all good there.
Which one of the approved postings did you use?
I'm sorry.
There's a list of postings in that the board has approved. And I was just wondering which one you used.
I rewrote it because it was outdated and I was working under the assumption that because this is, hiring staff and personnel, which is under my purview of roles and responsibilities, I did not have to run it by the board.
Yeah.
Not even the personnel committee?
Thank you.
That was, excuse me, four interviews.
Four. Promising.
We'll see.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna move on to the chairperson's report. There's a few things. Since our last meeting, I've received 2 notices from the city, just for transparency's sake, they inform us when they no longer can pursue further on taxes, and so they have to go through a court system of having those basically expunged from the record. And so there were 2 of those this month. And then there were some questions from board members over the last month. One was to see the copy of the library portion of the city audit, which is included in your list of documents, as well as the independent bank stuff. Just a reminder with the independent bank stuff, you can look at it while you're here tonight, and then it needs to go back to James. It's not for us to take minutes. And then there was a question about a couple of checks that came from the city. And those are adjustments from taxes. So further payment from the city from collection of taxes. Just so that everybody knows that. And then there was a question, and this is really for all of us. So I'm not answering this question, but the question was whether or not we want to do any kind of training on how to use the AED device as a board. So I can't speak for all of us, but my own personal opinion is I would not want to do that myself, because it also would come with legal ramifications if you know how to do it and don't do it. If there are staff members that are present at our meeting that know how to use it, I think obviously.
I would like to do some recertification on that. I know that some staff are certified in CPR and AED, and that is gonna lapse soon, so we were gonna look into getting that training done. And I would like, it was just a few staff members, but I would like all staff members, just because our schedules are so flexible.
Yeah. Is it about, I looked into it a long time ago for our business, but is it about $100?
About
Something like that?
110.
Yeah.
Per person.
Yeah, per person. But open to any discussion about that if anybody else has thoughts about it. Yeah,
So
This is just to make sure that when we're open to the public, we have someone who's in the building
Yeah.
that knows how to operate.
yeah. But we're getting close to the end of that certification, which is what James is saying.
You don't mind if I tease John and say he's had a lot of medical experience lately?
On the wrong end of it there, Ron.
I just had to get your name out.
Yeah.
Like to have you also look at that new device that they've got for choking. It's a suction type device that.
Oh,
is
yeah.
used.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. That is the interesting thing.
That's what prompted. the question.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay.
I reached out to the fire department and the Rockford ambulance, who's the ones that, so the fire department referred me to Rockford, but I do know that, the fire department is also due for a walkthrough, so I can ask him about all that stuff, like, see if they have the new device and.
Sure.
all that
Oh,
stuff.
you're having them come through?
It's about time the fire extinguishers, their little dates are, so I'm sure he'll walk through and do just a safety inspection.
Yeah, usually check all the exit signs and all that stuff. Push the button to make sure the battery's still charging.
That's important though,
Yeah.
because to keep this building up, if it doesn't work, fix it.
For
It
sure.
would be a good one to, it's good to pay attention.
I'm glad to.
Narcan in this building?
I haven't seen it. You don't?
No.
I know there's a way to get it.
Yeah,
It's free.
Cherry Health has
It's
it.
free.
Cherry Health, okay. I thought you could also ask the Department of Health and they'll send you some.
I'm sure you can.
But,
I'm sure they probably have it right up here. at-
Okay,
at
Cherry Health,
Where
okay.
the police station is.
That's not a bad idea either.
Cause they
Well, I
have,
just got, I know when I did AED training, the Narcan training was in it too, so.
yeah,
That's a very good idea.
I'm sorry, Narcan?
Oh,
It's-
for opioid overdoses, it's,
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's the
that's
nasal
the-
spray.
Yeah.
Yeah. They do that for a lot of things now. I didn't know. My son has grand mal seizures and they have an inhaler type thing like for that too. now. It's great.
And my wife's on some opioids and the doctor automatically gives her that
Yeah.
combination of.
I'm sure.
it's not just people abusing it,
Yeah,
it's accidental.
yeah, yeah, lots of times, yeah.
And like when James was talking about. Vagrants or people just hanging around and stuff,
Yeah,
you walk into the bathroom and find the body.
It could happen.
it could happen. It's happened to me in my job.
So,
Yeah.
are any of the board members able to take part of this training?
If we approved that, that'd be fine. I mean, if someone really wanted to do it.
Well, I was previously certified and I just need to update mine.
Yeah, I think. We just find out when you're doing most of them, and if somebody wanted to jump into that, that could be a big deal.
Sometimes do they offer a discount for?
I was talking to him about that and it was like, cause we are a public, we're a public space. And so we are a government building, but I think it's because they are a private company.
Yeah,
So that's just one estimate. I wanted to reach out to like the county and see if they offer this. Cause I know that the county sheriff will come in and do active shooter training for free. So I can only assume that they'll have something similar at either a discounted rate at the very least.
You might want to check with the Red Cross too.
Yeah.
that's. I know we had enough people that I was asking that also, and we didn't hit the threshold. I can't remember what it was now, but it was much higher than. I was,
Or something.
it's something crazy like that.
And we can always do it.
But it's-
Community one.
It's worth asking, but. Okay, thank you. And then, some of my just normal comments. I wanted to thank everybody for, participating in the training. That we did the last couple of meetings. It was useful and helpful to the way that we operate. So appreciate that. And I appreciate also, people following the timelines for getting stuff in for the next meeting and all of that, so that we don't have rush stuff at the end. And so keeping in mind that the Monday, 2 weeks out from our meeting, if you could send in anything that you want to communicate about the next meeting, then that would be the time to do it. So if we stay on that, I think it'll make it a lot smoother. So thanks for doing it. And then the next thing is committee reports. I don't know of any that have met since we were last gathered, so unless that's not correct, we'll move on. That brings us to our first time for public comment. Obviously, anybody that would like to address the board on a topic can be recognized, will be recognized by the chair, and should limit their comments to 2 minutes. If there's anybody in public comment.
Last year or last summer over our beautiful Labor Day weekend, I had COVID. And thank heaven I had this test. And, I just thought I had a bad cold.
Yeah.
Sure enough, it was COVID. So, very simple to use. I highly recommend you keep one in the house for your family, so you know it's not just a cold or sinus infection, it's COVID. I had it for 5 days, and then there's 2 tests in here, so I took 2 tests for positive. And then after the 5th day, I was negative, so I had 2 tests for negative, but easy to do. I highly recommend you keep one handy, or 2, or how many kids you got. And it got me through it. It wasn't a horribly severe fatigue, cold, not as scary and dreadful as the old COVID was, but get one of these, I'm gonna take another one.
Anything else? Okay. Moving on to ongoing new business. Designation of official record site of the library, that was included in our packet.
Yeah, what I included was, I summarized these in my September report, but I figured it would be better to just give you how it appears in the state of Michigan record retention and disposal schedule, general schedule 17, public libraries. The highlighted sections are what I think pertain to this issue. And so nothing really has changed from our discussion last month. I think the discussion should really focus on how long you want to keep the physical records before we digitize them. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Do you have, obviously you were just with a bunch of people from libraries. I don't know if you had a chance to talk to anybody else or since our last meeting, of what would be kind of a standard practice.
Well, standard right now is what we're doing
Yeah.
because everybody's shifting to the cloud, but cloud services are expensive.
Yeah.
So a lot of, especially the smaller libraries, they just basically follow this general schedule 17.
So they keep them in physical.
They keep them in physical, and then it's up to the board to determine how long until you move to the digital. Honestly, the average I heard was like 10 years. You keep the physical, back 10 years, and then everything before that is automatically digitized and saved either on your server or on your website or something. But it sounds like we're already doing the standard.
Yeah.
With the server gets backed up every week, and whatever is saved on that server is just, it's there. Unless I'm going, or some other people are going through and deleting stuff that's on our shared drives, on our server drives, it's gonna stay there until we run out of storage space, and then we're gonna have to get a new,
Larger
external
hard drive.
Yeah, larger hard drive. That's why a lot of people are shifting to cloud services,
It's because of the hard drive.
because of the hard drive storage issues, but, again, that's pricey.
So if,
Go ahead.
if you like. Currently on our server, how much room do we have?
I think we have he just swapped them out. We have 2 3 terabyte hard drives that we swap every week.
Yeah.
So,
So quite a while.
Yeah.
And if we were to take everything that's older than 10 years and digitize it. Is there any way of knowing like how much that would add up to?
I'd have to look at the average file size. And I think once you get past that year, we wouldn't have to do month to month. We could just do the entire year.
Yeah, right.
And because all I know are like the month to month, which are like 15, 16 or 16, 15 or 16 kilobyte.
Right.
I have
So
no
it's
idea how
not-
much a whole year would be, so.
So it probably, I mean, it'd be shocking if it even turned out to be like a gig.
Yeah,
Uh,
to say the least.
And so, sounds like we'd have plenty of.
We would.
Yeah.
Yes.
May I make a suggestion, Chair?
It's discussion.
In 2017, we moved into this new building.
Sure.
And I would recommend that if you take everything from 2017 back and digitize that, that would leave us with just 6 or 7 years that we're working with right now. And it would be more advantageous in his office with a fire safe
Well,
to clear out some of that.
unfortunately, all the physical stuff is stored up above in the loft because there is no room in my
Yeah.
office.
Obviously. it
Um,
doesn't-
But it's not in the fire safe. So I
That's
would
fine.
feel more comfortable if it was, we could do it that way. Just because if a fire does happen, it says right here, we have to retain these permanently. So
That's one of the reasons why
Yeah.
we got the fire safe.
yeah, so if we keep it, then, or I'm sorry, if we have them stored digitally, that's one thing, but I think the physical copies in a fire safe would make sense, yes.
And could we keep, how many years worth could we keep in the fire safe?
I'd have to go through that, because again, there's also some files.
I don't even know what the fire safe looks like.
It's a
so-
file cabinet, but what I have to go through is there's other documents in the office that I've been going through following Schedule 17. Like, I've been literally piece by piece, okay, what would this be? This is this, so therefore I have to keep it for X amount of years. This whole thing is actually 24 pages long. And there's
Mhm.
like over 100 different subsections on what records you have to retain and for how long. So I'm
Sure.
painstakingly going through all of the records. And then once I have that figured out, like once I've purged all the stuff that we don't need anymore, then I can then have a better assessment of how much space we need.
Yeah.
Maybe you need a board committee to help you with it.
I don't think I need a committee. It's more or less just setting aside time to do it. I've been pretty busy with other board tasks, but if I set aside a couple of hours here or there, every once in a while, I can get it done eventually.
Yes.
Get that back.
Then James, have we as a board or officially adopted or said that we're gonna follow this Schedule 17?
This is from the state of Michigan. You have
And they
to
gave
follow
us a
this.
good deal.
But I mean, so it's just understood that
It's
it's
just
a public
understood that, yeah.
library. This is the governing.
Yes.
Yes.
You're proceeding on this as best you can and will keep us advised.
Yes.
One of the things, that's why we bought the fire safe, is because we needed to permanently keep some records. And when we built the new building, that was why they did it. And I've got a card here from the company that sold it to us. They gave us a real good deal on it. In fact, a couple of board members at the time bought 2-drawer file cabinets for their homes. But all this stuff that's upstairs or was in the storage unit and stuff, that was supposed to be stuff that had expired or were no longer needed to be kept.
That's what you're talking about.
Which currently there,
2017.
doesn't sound like there is.
No,
any.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
a couple of directors just kept everything and that's fine. But now I have to, like I said, I'm going through and I'm making sure that we're retaining what needs to be retained and then getting rid of what needs to get rid of. The reason why, this is so important is because, especially for digital data, is because, that is how, when we got hacked at my last job, that is how they got into, some personal information was because it was just saved and saved and saved and saved, and nobody went through and did some digital,
Clean.
hygiene. So, they, sure enough, there were some files that didn't need to be saved that they got a hold of, and then we were kind of, you know, we had to deal with them, but, so not only is it physical, but it's also digital, but this is actually really easy. It's just a matter of setting aside time to do it, and
Yep.
the past month, I just haven't had to.
Part of what my concern was making sure you had the backups and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have those. We definitely have those. Last time Nick was here, I asked him about backing things up, and he's like, as long as you save it on this drive or that drive, they're automatically saved, and then just
How
once a
about
week
your,
as well.
how about your laptop?
I save it to the drive. I save everything to the director drive, because it just clears up
Because
space.
I know with Donna, he had them backing it up to a USB drive because it couldn't back up on the NOS.
Oh, well, right. If
All
it's
right, so
backing, it's,
if you've got that taken care of,
Yes,
fine.
yeah,
yeah.
I have a gentleman in town that is a corporate web person and web designer and stuff like that. And if you don't mind, I'd ask him to take a look at the website and give us some recommendations.
I'll take his card for sure, because I have a couple of people I reached out to about our website, so.
Because one of the things I mentioned to him is if you download anything, you get this error about it's not a secure server. And I
That
said,
was-
he said, that's simple to fix.
That was actually fixed this afternoon. Nick stopped by again to do some other things. One of our computers wasn't logging into M console, and he fixed it. It's now a secure website. But we still have to become ADA compliant. We still have to, I just would like to update our website. And in here, I did mention, the average cost of it. So if you want to give me that gentleman's contact info, I'll definitely reach out to him and get his pricing.
Well, he was gonna take a look at it and let me know.
I would just prefer that you give him, I get his contact
He's a
information.
personal friend, okay?
And I'll,
He works for corporate.
I'll reach out to him and see what we can do.
I'll let him know.
yeah, if he wants business out of it. Get him right in touch with James, yeah. Okay, anything more on that topic?
James, I appreciate your idea, what you're talking about with storage. And all I ask is just keep on. I
Okay.
know as you're getting warmed up, I think you're operating very smart. Your idea. The kicker is make it happen. But with that in mind, I think we're in pretty good shape when you get moving. Would you
Right.
agree?
Right, so I guess I just would like to ask again, how, it was suggested 2017. But again, standard is 10 years, so whatever the board thinks we should keep physical, I'll make sure to set that aside if, okay, this is within that time frame. So I won't digitize, I'll digitize it, but
If
I'll
it's
still.
10
set it
years, then
aside.
do, 2014 back, or actually, it's close
2014
enough,
forward, yeah,
2015 back.
yeah,
That makes sense to go by what they suggest. Go by the rules, you can't really miss.
And if you get done and you come back and say, hey, I got that all done.
Well,
I'd
once-
like to do some more.
once everything's digitized.
Yes,
Yes,
be more
please,
than willing to give.
once everything's digitized, it'll be easier to just, because then we can, it's literally just taking the physical stuff and destroying it.
Yeah.
And it's already backed up and ready to go.
Yeah, but some of that stuff that's permanent, you won't be able to, just digitize and then get rid of. Because I think
That's exactly what it says on that.
Yeah.
Thing is you destroy it after you digitize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not a techie person, so as you go through all these old papers and decide what you need to keep or not keep, are we going to eventually digitize all of it, even if?
That will depend on, I think. That's a tough question to answer because it depends on what it is. All the permanent stuff, yes. If we only need to keep it for 7 years,
Right.
Like a tax record or something.
yeah. Maybe not. But for the most part, I think just the board minutes, the agendas, the meetings. The meeting recordings, if I just save, because those are all the permanent ones, If it says retain until permanent, I think we'll digitize it, but then if it's like, 50 years, 40 years. Things like that,
You're not coming across anything that you feel like,
Strange.
no, just like, I don't know, like, I think about like when they built this library or.
that
any
is
other-
actually, oh, I don't have the full thing in front of me,
Um,
that's permanent.
Yeah,
That's one of those records that has to be permanently.
That's one of the ones
yeah,
Ron came
and
across.
I'm just thinking like, if there is something that technically we don't need to keep,
Right.
but it's got some significance, like, does it make sense for us to maybe think about giving some of that stuff to the museum or,
Oh,
It's
yeah,
not
that's
good.
not a bad,
because
Historical value.
we have a cool museum in town
Mhm.
and, if there's something that, is just like a cool news article. or
I've
something
also-
like that.
I've also reached out to the newspaper and somebody at the historical museum but especially the newspaper. I reached out and asked if they have any old copies of the Cedar Springs, was it Post?
Yeah.
Yeah, if they have any old copies of that and they have them digitized, our website would host that. So that way
Oh.
you could go to our website and then go to that special.
Yeah.
I spoke with, the old editor, I cannot remember her name.
Lois L.
Yeah,
And, she said that she'll get back to me, so.
cool.
That's a good
Thanks for
idea.
doing that. All right, thank you. Anything else on this? Okay. The tax increment financial act.
So this one. I would recommend, this email is from Claire. But she says right in there, which is the line I highlighted, this can get complicated and contentious, so it is always advisable to have your attorney advise your board on the best course of action in this matter. So that's what I think we should do. I have reached out to the attorney. And gave him kind of like, asked him how much it would be if we do this list of, projects this year. He did give me, like, he charges like $270 an hour. But he has an assistant that is only $250 an hour, or a paralegal that's $88 an hour, so we can decide from there, but, I think even with all this information that we have, we should give this to the attorney and let him give his opinion, and then the board make the decision based on that opinion.
Yeah, because there's two different tax pieces,
Yes.
which makes it complicated just on that level.
Let
And,
me make a statement.
yeah,
In February 2017, the city council passed the first reading of a dissolution of the DDA.
Hmm.
They were gonna dissolve it. And if they're gonna be taking our library money without even letting us know or telling us how much it is, or giving us the, hey, by the way, that's sort of mean.
Well, there
I don't-
is attached, I just received it in the mail today, there is a letter that I put in everybody's. It says, in conjunction with the regular Downtown Development Authority meeting Monday, January 27th, 2025 at noon PM, at 12 PM. The City Hall Council Chambers, blah, blah, blah. This is basically them saying that, they're letting us know how the money is gonna be spent and what the plan is and what the goals are. So, I think that's why I want the lawyer to look at it and then maybe we find out that there's just too many moving parts here to just be able to say, all right, well, I mean, yeah, it'd be great to save that money, but I would like to hear what the attorney has to say, because it's sometimes better to have somebody third party come in and look at it and say, all right, based on all of this, this is how I think you should move forward.
May I
And let me just say one thing about that. One of the things that has happened at least once that I know of is the DDA has given us that money back. So I want to just be clear that nobody is doing anything crazy. You know, it is a standard practice that was done for a long time. You know, this board, long before most of us were on it, you know, the Library of Michigan had come out and said, we don't think this is a good practice anymore. Boards that should opt out of it. And you are able to do so legally on any taxes before this date, which that's the complication of ours, is one of our millages is from so far back that it doesn't actually apply to that one, is what it looks like. Though, again, just like Claire said, it's complicated, so I don't want to say that that's a fact, but that's what it appears to be. And so I agree that if we want to go down this path, we certainly would need to have someone pretty skilled to look at it.
Tim, I apologize to everybody for missing a couple of meetings here, but so I understand.
Yeah.
And I always try to get numbers behind things.
For sure.
This past tax year, the DDA, because we're in their district, captured taxes that would have normally come to us. And that dollar amount, which I did check, was, you looked that up, and was like $4,372.99.
Yeah.
And normally what it went to us was because they got a DDA and we're in their district and all that kind of stuff, they captured that money. And they used it for those projects or whatever it is. And the law has changed, which gives libraries the option of maybe opting out of that capture and keeping it or having that money go to us.
That's correct.
But as Claire, which I have to tell you, I really like Claire. She's sharp, she's really good, but I had to read this like 4 times. So Claire is saying that we're working with these 2 millages, this 1936, a half a mil, and the 2013 city one that they passed and put into place. And so these 2 together make up this $4,300, which as far as I can tell is like 1/3, 2/3.
Yeah.
When I look at it. And the director's saying, before you guys make any decision, whether you want to opt out or whatever it may be, please have an attorney review all this and clarify, Claire. And which is which, and you're adding to the conversation that sometimes they capture this money, but it has been returned to us in some respects.
I think that's what the attorney should
Am I,
determine.
am I tracking all this now?
That is correct. And so, you know, just like every other thing that we've discussed as far as like, you know, some of the agreements that we've had with the city in the past and things like that, like
Yeah.
we should, as the people responsible for making sure that all of the finances and things make sense for the library, make a point of, you know, for years and years, a lot of this stuff was done by a person from this board talking to a person at the city or a person from DDA, and they come to an agreement on a Thursday afternoon, and that's what it is.
Gallon shucks.
And we're lucky that we live in a place where those kinds of things can be productive generally, but it is wise to get these things down and organized so that, you know, God forbid, something happens and some of us aren't here or whatever, and nobody can remember what the agreement was.
But it's all done in good spirit.
It is
That's
done
the
in good
best
spirit. Nobody is trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes or.
It is a good point,
Yeah.
though, to get things taken care of. I like
Yes.
your idea on that.
Yeah.
It's smart. If we do something now that makes it easier for the future,
Yeah,
that's better for everybody.
that's correct.
But as a point, the dollar amount that we are talking about for this particular tax year is $4,379.99.
That's correct.
You gotta put my 2 cents in, or 3 cents.
So noted.
In with the DDA, the city actually at one time wanted to dissolve them. Because there was no funds coming in. All right? They get funds now from us, from Grand Rapids Community College, taxes, and a couple other, funds that they get money from. I would have had no problem with the city saying, library board, we need to take some money to give it to the DDA. The heart of Cedar Springs is part of the DDA zone. So, you know, can you make a donation?
Right.
And I would have voted for a donation right off the top.
We can't give donations as a public entity, as a
Hold on a
government
second,
entity.
let me finish.
I agree, but go ahead.
Well, when we're sitting here, Tammy was the last one that I know, tried to get some snow plowing done, and the DDA is charging us to do the snow plowing. And Dan, Donna's husband, did the mowing because the DDA wouldn't do it. And the city had already said they would do it. So there's a lot of history in there that ebbs and flows. And I know about us not making a donation, but it could have been arranged like a bill for the DDA Association, you know, membership fee, things like that. It could have been worked out. But the city never told us about it. They just were taking the money off the top. And I guess that part's what really irked me about it, is that they wanted to get rid of the DDA to begin with. We build a new building here, and now all of a sudden they're taking our taxes.
It's not all of a sudden, this has been going on for forever. But this is not new.
This is exactly why we need to have the attorney take a look at this and figure this out, because
One of the things
that sounds very, and this is another reason why I want to do intergovernmental agreements in writing.
Yes.
One of the
Because of
things-
this situation where it's like, well, 15 years ago, this person
I wasn't
agreed to
finished
this
yet,
for
James.
5 years, but I would much rather have this in writing.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Finish up.
One of the things Claire said was that the city was supposed to have renewed that 1 mil of non-voted millage
Right.
every year.
Yep.
No place can I find in the city budget or in their board packets or anything else where they did that. All they did was approve a 0.484 mils for library money. Did they actually renew that? These are things that the lawyer's gonna have to address, because if they haven't, and they've been collecting this money all these years without renewing that money, they were illegal. So there's, you know, again, I agree with going to the attorney, but there's so many, you know, like Tim said, there's so many parks coming in and out there that, you know, and the city never collected the 0.5 mil for those years. Until we put them and says, hey, you know, you're supposed to be collecting this. Oh, yeah, okay. And then shortly thereafter, they says, well, KDL is gonna do 1.1 mil, so we'll go to KDL instead. So the people aren't paying the 1.22.
Yeah, let's not get into
I'm done.
Well, Then I guess just as a final, one thing I did find interesting, again, I totally agree with you, I appreciate this. But the 1 mil was interesting, that was something, if I understood this correctly, is something that, as Claire says, they choose to renew and levy and collect each year as like a city millage for the library. And I hadn't really quite understood that. I think I understood the 1936 half a mil and all that. But that was interesting. So I'm just expressing a curiosity that, I mean, I hope the rest of us give him the go ahead to do that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious about that 1 mil that could supposedly renew every year or
Because it's a
Point
it's a
eight.
non-voted,
yeah,
it's non-voted.
0.8, whatever it is.
Yeah, and like she said, they put it down on the on the wrong form as statutory
Yeah, yeah,
when it's a non-voted.
yeah.
The
Yeah, so-
problem is that Claire Membiela is not a practicing attorney.
Yeah.
She just gives information
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know how up to date the information that she is gleaning from is.
Yeah.
So again.
Yeah.
That's all fine and good. I'm
Yeah.
glad that she responded to that email, but this is the matter that I think the attorney needs to look at from start to finish. And whatever his opinion is, that should sway the board's vote.
I think that's something tonight we ought to talk about, at least get something moving on this, so it doesn't keep coming up.
So we
Have
had,
you gotten an estimate from them?
$270 an hour.
however,
Yeah, but how many
However,
hours?
he doesn't.
That
know.
depends on how complicated the
He
situation
doesn't.
is.
know.
Can I ask who this is?
It's our,
The,
it's our
uh,
lawyer that we've used
Hans.
in the past. His name is Hans Renfro.
This is the Bloomfield Hills firm.
Pardon?
This is the firm that's in Bloomfield Hills.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
As a board member, I guess I wish we would use someone who's in Kent County.
It's
Yeah,
hard to
so-
find a library lawyer.
So
Yeah.
we,
Well, they didn't, Swift and, or Foster and Swift would not take us because they also represented someone else in this area.
Yeah.
And there would have been conflicts.
so at the time that we started talking to Hans,
Yeah.
was when that whole thing was going on with KDL.
Oh, okay.
And so the library board wanted to have a lawyer to help them navigate that situation. And he represents KDL, so he could not represent us. And so,
So you're going to the library of our, that,
the
And we've
attorney,
got
serves us.
we've got a contract with them.
well,
We
we don't have a.
we don't have a
We don't-
we're not, he's not on retainer, we don't have a
Right.
contract with him.
Yeah.
He just sent me a letter of engagement saying this is how much I charge per hour, this is how much
Yes.
my assistant is, this is
Correct.
how much. I
But we
pay for
trust
the
him to
kids.
do other things.
At the time, I happened to be in the audience during that meeting. I wasn't on board yet.
oh,
At the time, they presented 2 or 3 different attorneys, and Hans was the most affordable and most respected in this area of expertise. So
okay.
I'm comfortable with them for this issue, myself, but I also, you know, I don't know. You know, of course, at that time, Foster Swift was not presented because there wasn't enough. They likely are more expensive, would be my guess.
Please excuse me, but it's just
Yeah.
by nature that if we can do things locally. and I
Of course.
prefer
Good
to
idea.
Kent County
Yeah.
wise, I always like that.
He has been very helpful in the past. We have previously approved to spend there is we've carried over in our budgets an approval of up to $4,000 to at the time that we were doing that, the talk was whether or not to have the bylaws reviewed by him. If everybody's okay with it, I would suggest that we say to James, you know, not to exceed whatever amount of money that we're comfortable with within that $4,000.
Well, the budget has a limitation, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But I would say, 3,500. And if Hans says I'm gonna have to go over that,
Then we talk
come
about.
back
it.
to the board for approval
Yeah.
before he does it.
Of course, yes. So. So are we kind of in agreement that we would want James to pursue that?
And I guess I'd
Make a
the
mo-
statement of the question.
Pardon?
The statement of the question, to summarize all, we're asking him to go to the attorney to advise us whether we should try to opt out of the DDA capture.
That is correct.
Is that?
That's
I
the
would agree.
question. And for the record, that could have been done long ago. This has been an option for several years.
Well, we had to make sure we
No.
get him up to speed.
I'm just saying, like, this is not new to this group. This
Okay.
could have been done long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
At least now we can get things moving.
Yeah, yes, so
So I make a
Just-
motion, if I may, that the board authorizes James to contact Hans for direction and opinion on how the board may proceed, or at least what the board's options are for this type of DDA catch.
Capture.
It's called a catch.
Yeah.
Not to exceed a certain.
Not to exceed 3,500 without prior board approval. Is that something you can live with, James?
No, because this motion is like, hey, approval to let James do his job.
right,
So
that's why I was wondering.
I will reach out to the attorney. I will figure out how much this will cost us.
The board needs to approve.
If it stays within the line item budget, which was approved back in June, then
That's why I was bringing that. That's why I was bringing that up, is it's already in the budget.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we actually.
there's no
Need a
motion to
motion.
be had. As long as I stay within that budget, I will absolutely do that. If you want me to stay under 3,500, I will stay under 3,500. But this does not
Can I
need to be a
ask
motion
James-
or a vote.
But
Can I
the
ask-
question is we have to give him as the board a direction as to
That's my
what the
job.
board wants.
That's my
Yeah, we
job.
just told them.
That's
so,
my job.
Yeah.
That's literally my job, man.
Yeah,
We need to tell you what we're looking for.
and we did that.
Okay,
Yeah.
He's a professional.
can I ask what the budget is?
The budget
About
currently is
47,
For professional services.
it's like 4,200.
it's $4,200 is what's in there, I believe.
Well, how much is left now?
We haven't spent any of
We
it.
haven't spent it.
Okay, so it's all there.
Yeah.
So we have
We
4,200.
anticipate spending, I mean,
I don't know that it is gonna even be anywhere near that.
Oh, that's okay. I did
It
not-
would probably, at the least, probably be 6 to 8 hours of work.
Oh, that's okay.
That's my guess.
4,200. We know that we've got that much.
Yeah.
Not to exceed. I guess there's a motion. Okay.
We,
no,
No,
there has,
based on the rejection and stuff, I withdraw the motion.
Oh,
okay,
okay.
and there was a second.
So no,
And I agree, I don't think it's necessary. We've told him what we want him to do, and he's got a budget line item to stick to.
we've had good discussion. We all know.
Yes.
Well, that's a good idea. We're still getting something done because he knows what he wants us to do.
He knows we're real interested.
All right, can we move on, to library investments?
Oh, yeah.
So we already have 3 certificates of deposit, CD One Choice, Cleo Cowles, and the USF funds. Those are found, what I have included was the end of year budget for 2024, 2023, 2024, and I'm going off of our balance.
Yes.
Cleo Cowles is a 13,000 investment that is designated non-spendable. However, any interest that is made off of that, we are allowed to spend on books. There's a little plate that we have to put in there, says this was dedicated by this endowment or whatever, and so we can't touch that one. USF funds, they appear to be designated for E-rate projects, so if whatever we spend in that, 90% will be reimbursed thanks to the E-rate program. I have no idea what CD Choice One is for, it's just on there, it doesn't say anything designated for it, just says CD Choice One. And that is actually our biggest CD. I think what we should do is, and this is based off of that webinar that I sat in on, is take the restricted capital maintenance, that $5,000 line, and either add it to one of the CDs or turn one of the CDs, just make one of the CDs our capital improvement plan. For future capital projects, building repairs, maintenance, emergencies in case like the HVAC blows or a tornado blows through the town and takes the roof off. And
That was why it was put in place in the first place.
yeah, but it's not accruing any interest. It's just $5,000 sitting there. So I
No, I
think,
mean, the CD at Choice One.
oh, that is for.
That's what it
capital?
was set up for.
Okay.
Is that in
So,
the minutes anyplace?
Pardon?
Is that in the minutes anyplace, or? We hereby,
We did that back in 2010, I think,
okay,
because
Okay,
we were in that building and we were looking at building a new one. So we started taking some of the surplus and putting it in there so that if something major happened, we'd have like some money to be able to repair it, especially if the city couldn't help us.
like a disaster fund.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Okay.
basically what it is.
Okay, thank you.
So right now, the library does have an investment policy. However, I think that the policy does not comply with the library's establishment under PA 164. Specifically, all money received for the library shall be deposited in the treasury of the city to the credit of the library fund, shall be kept separate and apart from other money of the city and drawn upon by the proper officers of the city upon the properly authenticated vouchers of the library board. So that'd be the treasurer, the chair, and myself.
The treasurer signed.
Essentially, because our funds are housed in the city's treasury, the library may have to adhere to city policies when it comes to investing. Our investment policy specifically states that the authority to manage the investment program is derived from MCL 397-182. That is for district libraries. We're not a district library, so I don't know what the carryover is. I don't know what I don't know how much of that overlaps, but I would feel much better if we had an investment policy that says we are adhering to this PA 164. Also Act 20 of 1943 for how to invest money. That's again for all government agencies. But I think that myself, the board chair and the board treasurer should go to the city and sit down with their finance manager and director, city manager, and just sit down and ask, what CDs can we invest in? What does the process of us pulling money from that look like? What, just get the rundown of how it works because our funds are housed in the city. Yes, we can touch them whenever we want. Yes, it's supposed to be separate from the cities, but there's just a few things that I'd like to run by the city just to show that we're a good partnership with them too.
Then I guess at this point, I'd like to speak as a board member. This looks like one of those situations where you're eager to go ahead and do this, but that we don't really have a written policy that reflects what the board is the overriding goals, whatever of the board is for you to work with.
They're there, but again, because it's quotes the District Library Establishment Act, I'm reluctant to use it.
Oh, I agree.
Because I don't want to invest in the wrong type of
And what would
account. And
Yeah,
then
be a
we're
good idea
big
is,
trouble.
like you said, for the treasurer and the chair and you to meet with the city.
Yeah.
and then come back to the policy committee with recommendations and changes to it.
Yes.
And likely, this is probably a conversation that would happen at the policy committee and then just come back here. And so, I would again state my goal of, if it's gonna have to come back to this whole group anyway, then let's just come back to the group instead of sending it to committee first.
Can I just make some notes then? Our budget, our bylaws require that we have a reserve of like 25% of our budget. And on that basis, at what is it, 360 or whatever it is, some $91,000 should be our reserve. And to me, that just leads right into, oh, then you should have a 30, 60, 90-day CD that's just rolling all the time, earning interest, and there's your reserve. I also believe disaster funds, whatever that you can get to, and my personal experience has been 3 months, 90 days, 25%, whatever you want to call it. And in our particular case, that's another 91,000.
Well, in the webinar, they
Yeah.
said good, a good, fund balance is 4 to 6 months of operation.
Okay, 4 to 6, okay,
So,
that's fine.
which we're right about there right now. If you look at the restricted library operations line, that's.
Yeah.
That's about 4 to 6 months, but. We could easily move some of that over to a CD, we could, every year take out the interest and then put that towards something.
Because my follow-up to this is that I've always been concerned that governmental entities, and we are one, we receive public tax dollars. This shows us that our fund balance went from 281 to like 382.
Yeah.
From 1 year to the next because of a lot of particular factors. James wasn't here, and there was some new negotiations, new contract, new money's coming, lots of things.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now we have a chance to begin to put into place some steady things and keep going from here. And I just want to see us be able to come back with that policy. And then be able to see that, oh, he's rolling a CD every 90, we know that's the reserve for the budget. Here's his disaster money, he's cashed in that choice one. And to me, I guess I would turn to you, James, and with this framework and knowing this, I guess I would be looking for you to have a proposal to us.
Well,
If not-
what I would have to do first is we'd have to sit down with the city.
Yeah.
And I think. PA 164, it says right here, properly authentic, where did it say? Proper officers of the city upon properly authenticated vouchers of the library board. I think that means that we should have, like, maybe at least the treasurer in on this, like, kind of help. Figure out this, like, they should be involved in that process and know how that process works.
Right.
I agree, but I also believe that for transparency and for the public, there should be an investment report, there should be something.
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, and we can work on that. That's what I'm saying. That's
It
exactly what I'm
shows-
saying. We can work on that every month.
This is where the money is, and then I lead up to my ultimate. If we only need to have 181,000 or a 200,000 for us to sit here with 382, to me is wrong.
It's irresponsible.
Now, and I understand your list and your ideas of capital improvements and things and all this, but then I'll back up and say, in a budget point of view, I think we did real good on the budget, that's fine, but now we're talking about capital improvements.
Yeah.
And I would like to see, and I believe it's required by the act, that we have a 3 to 5 year plan
Yes,
that lays out every year what we're going to do and how much we're going to spend in each one of those years.
yes.
And even those, I mean, those projects that he's got in here is $40,000. It's barely any of it. Yeah.
But if that's the first year.
Yeah.
And the next is this.
Oh,
or some of
this
those
one.
are spread, or-
I love that you said this is the first year. We could absolutely do all this in 1 year, but I was thinking because of other things that are coming up, like, we could maybe kind of stretch it out into phases. But because of these price points, I knew I had to run it by the board, so that's why I just included this list. But these are all things that need to be done.
I would.
Niche Academy is the one that I'm on the fence with, because as we build our new website, this Niche Academy is a way you can supplant videos into the website that kind of show you how to use library resources for patrons.
I would hate to put all this on your plate right
Oh.
now. Honestly, these are all great ideas. I expect these from you, but I expect it to be part of, in a sense, the budget process.
Okay.
And I've laid out my 5 years, and I've now spread these out for you. And depending how this turns out, I think we can tackle this one particular project. Thank you very much. But I just wanted to speak to the fact that if it says 382 and we only need 200, that's not right to keep the public's money.
That's correct.
That, owl thing that you had in there.
Yes.
I like it and everything else, but the board at one time when I presented it, before we started doing this, it was too expensive. But I'm glad to see now.
Yeah, this is.
Because I got it from Nick that way.
Yeah, this is through Amazon. This is the cheapest, because we have that Amazon business.
Yeah.
Account, so this is the cheapest we can get for it. I think it's a great little product. It's essentially a 360 camera, so we can set up the table in the middle and it'll catch all of us, not just the 3 people sitting right there. And the microphone is pretty good. It can reach up to 18 feet or something like that. So, I would say that that's something I would like to purchase, if hopefully for the next board meeting, because I think that'll just help with a lot of, you're just getting 2 people sitting right now, and I think it'd be a lot better if you got the whole room.
One of the things I would look for is for somewhere in the law, you talked about, district libraries.
Oh,
But
yeah,
I'm quite sure the city has either already a written policy or something that says, go ahead, finance director, manager, you may invest these surplus monies, but they're in CDs at local banks. You're not sending it up to Alaska for oil exploration, you know, that
Right.
kind of thing. So we're gonna keep you in a particular safe, I'll call it safe investments.
and that's what I want the treasurer and the chair and myself to go talk to the city about.
Yeah.
Is, you know, what approved CDs, what, because there's one, the perfect example is there's this, they're not necessarily a CD, but they're called Michigan Class, and a lot of libraries use them. They have great interest rates, easily access your money. They do comply with Act, I want to say it's 40, Act 20. They do comply with the Investment Act of 1943, but they're not in the city's policies. That's not one of the kinds of things you can invest in, so that's where, you know, if they even said, if we had to tweak it a little bit so you guys can do that, we're into it, but that's what we had to have that meeting about. We have to sit down with all of them. We have
If
to
we can
talk about
copy
them.
another library's policy, that's fine. with
I
me.
think that's the issue we ran into with this last one, because it looks like, it was reading it, it was a great policy up until I got to the MCL 397.182. I'm like, that's not us. So, I know that another thing that the lawyer can go over, and that I'd like him to go over eventually, is policies, because even Claire says there's certain policies that you have to have your lawyer run by, and anything financial is on that list. So,
Nothing in California.
right, exactly.
Okay. So you just need general okay from us to be able to go meet with the city.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a consensus.
yeah, I think we're.
I would agree.
Yes,
Okay, all right, great. Anything else for that part? Obviously, you'd like to buy the owl.
Can I try moving forward on some other projects? Like maybe we should wait on Niche Academy, but maybe at least reach out about the RFID tagging project.
You'd like to find out if it really will be that price, or are you asking to be able to spend that money?
Well, I'm asking if I can do a little bit more, wheeling and dealing.
Okay, so
The
you,
RFID is the ones that you put inside the books, right?
Yes, it'll help with inventory management, it'll help with inventory, like, people just, walking out without checking the books. It will help with, checkout itself.
Yeah.
Check in. It'll really help, and the reason why that price is so high is because I was looking into getting a self-check machine.
Yeah.
If we wait and get the self-check machine another year, but we start with the RFID project, that'll be at least $12,000 cheaper.
You could be taking a step.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd like to
It's gonna take
phase
you
it
a
out.
year to put all those tags in.
Yeah. 32,000 items, yes.
so, can you clearly state so that we make the correct motion about money? To give you what you need.
I would like approval to purchase the owl. And at least look into, phases for the RFID tagging, like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
How about if we made, what if we made a motion to say, we approve you to spend up to $11,000 to get started with RFID and to purchase the owl.
Okay,
How would that be?
I will have to get back to you on that
Okay.
RFID price, but yeah.
Yeah, but that would get you
That
started.
gives us,
And if you found that you needed more than that, you could come back to us next week.
right.
And I so make that motion.
Real quick, the other two things on there, which I think will help, the point of sale and the new phone, they're not detrimental. But the new phone system will make sure that we have that, more than one line. So that way when somebody's on the phone, it's not busy. And then, B, make sure that, we can, excuse me, have different extensions. So not just, mainly when you call the library, it won't be busy.
We've been talking about this for a while. We should be wise to get moving on something.
So what if we said to you for this meeting? The motion would be to give you $11,000 to assign to your list of projects. In whatever method you'd like to do so. That would give you the flexibility during the course of the month to say, RFID is too expensive right now, I'm gonna do the phones instead,
Okay,
or whatever. How do you feel about that?
This is.
Yeah.
This is a dollar amount to work in. It's not an authorization to expend.
It is,
it's an authorization to expend.
Up to a certain amount.
And then I would ask, where in the budget is that coming from?
these all fit within budget
Yes.
items. And once he spends them, we would have to, like we're going to eventually do
Yeah,
in a minute.
we're gonna, yeah.
We would have to amend the budget to reflect what we spent.
Well, then this becomes an important point for me.
Yeah.
We don't spend the money and exceed the budget to start. What we do is amend the budget so that your expenditure falls within the authorized amount.
We don't know which places they're gonna come from. Problem in this case. The money is there.
I can answer that when we talk about number.
Because the next item is coming up. and
Yeah,
I
I have some
understand.
strong feelings about that. So.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so the 11,000, okay, and then the RFID, I do have to ask this just out of.
Mhm.
I have a personal thing about self-checkouts in grocery stores. And how they make me do that, I will go anyways.
Well, no, I
It's not
hear
its
that.
own
It's
purpose.
the nice thing about CSL check is. Actually, at the conference, he actually had a smaller one that would fit on our countertop, so we wouldn't have to buy a whole new unit, so that would also bring the price down. Another reason why I need a little bit more time to look at this, but. It would help, yeah, I mean, we're always gonna have the people at the front desk, we're always gonna have that, but it also free them up, so that way if they're in the middle of the stacks, looking for holds. Pulling stuff that needs to be weeded, doing something else, and somebody comes up to the front desk, they don't have to stop what they're doing and run all the way up. Especially if they're just checking out, they just. and you
Does
go on.
And you know, and I mean,
Does,
I feel your pain with the self-checkout at Meyer, but. I guess looking at that from a library and a patron privacy standpoint, there's real value to folks being able to check out their own materials without having to come to a
Person.
to a person.
look it
It's a
over.
thing for people.
I need to ask the question because if we buy this machine, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, then I'm allowed to reduce my labor costs by this much because we don't need these many people because the machine's gonna do it.
I think
You
they
can
just do other
find,
duties.
you can find other duties for sure.
Okay.
There's plenty
Yeah,
of
To
other
expand
things.
your,
I need
to
to
expand
ask-
your
I
offerings.
need to ask
Yeah.
that question.
Yeah,
so.
and
I have a question for James. What does Lakeland do about this? Do they have this in their system too?
A lot of libraries. Well, okay, the reason I went with Biblioteca is because that is what KDL uses. And if you look at a report, about 100 to 150 people from KDL regularly use our library and vice versa. So the reason why I went with this self-check machine and system is because that is the most common one. I've used it at Lake Orion. It's very good software. It's very good that. As far as to answer your question, Lakeland just basically says, here are the vendors. Go with what you want. There are other ones available, but the only other one I've used is Envisionware, and you get what you pay for.
And just to also be clear,
Yeah.
RFID tagging has more purposes than just the self-checkout.
Yeah, it's mostly for inventory control for, like I said, right now, we don't know how many people walk out of the building without checking out books because there's no security
Yes,
buzzer.
Yeah.
So
I
this
just
will help
wanted,
with that.
I just wanted to make that point since, especially strong feelings about the self-checkout part. It's not its sole purpose.
So you need a motion to authorize up to $11,000.
Yep.
For James to proceed with the projects.
Yes,
That was the OWL and RFD. That's my notes so far.
he has
he-
presented to us a list of projects.
Yes.
All,
He can-
proceed with all.
He's going to
He
go
he
through
won't
them.
be able to accomplish all of those projects without.
But he gets to start the 11.
But
Yes, to start.
these are all over the price point in the policy that I had to go and coordinate, so.
As presented.
Yes. Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Okay, is there a second for that? Thank you, Mark.
Oh, Mark.
Mark,
Thank you.
any more conversation we've had of that already?
Good luck.
Okay, so, yes, this is a roll call one. So Mark,
Yes.
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 and I'm a yes too. Thank you. All right,
I do have one question for James on the phone system. Say when someone calls in, the line is busy, but we won't need to add another line.
There's no additional line. It'll just basically create a phone tree. So you'll go on to hold while that other
Okay.
person.
Phone system.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
There's not another, phone line. There's different extensions, so you'll just be directed to a different extension or put on hold while that other person's on the
Yeah.
line, not
Okay,
get the
That's better
business.
than business.
yes,
okay,
thank you.
and then the amending of the budget.
So for that one, yes, we did go over 2 line items. We went over the workman's comp and the education and training expense. Excuse me, to speak to the education and training, I did get a stipend from the Library of Michigan. They sent me back that check. I gave it to the city. They put it in the budget. It's in there. They put it in the miscellaneous, revenue, which that's standard operating procedure. So it's just a matter of us amending that budget
Allocating
to,
to.
yeah,
Yep.
to cover it. So that's why I suggest we put that up to 1,800
For education. and
for
training.
education and
Change
training.
it to 1,800.
Change it to 1,800 and that will cover the $800 stipend.
Okay,
It was originally 16, but because I had spent half before June and half after July, they were like, we'll just split it down the middle and give.
Okay.
They attributed half of it to the June bills and then half of it to the July
sounds fine.
revenue.
Okay.
And then for the workman's comp. I was gonna say up that to 300 just to be safe.
There's not a current expenditure that's
Not
making
really-
you think about that.
not
It's
really
just,
aware of it,
you'd
no.
like to just be
Yeah.
more comfortable there.
But it did go over.
It did go over.
What expenditure caused it to go over?
This is just a part of our, insurance,
Oh,
Okay.
so.
Do you really have a choice on it?
No.
No.
But this is how much we paid for the insurance for
we're
it.
just looking
Yeah.
to right size the budget.
So where-
Exactly.
Where do these increases come from?
From our revenues.
Which line item?
Sorry?
They should be coming from a line item.
The revenues for you to cover these.
Miscellaneous, from the miscellaneous line item.
Do you know what the?
All of it?
Well, I know that's where the 800 went into.
And where does the 300 for the workman's comp come
It
from?
would be 150, sorry, not 300, so it would be,
It is 150 and you're asking for 150.
well, 150, yes, and they would both come out, yes, they would both come out of miscellaneous. Revenue.
I believe you're referring to that last account expenditure that's reserves, right? Or to fund balance.
I do not even,
No.
talk about the plus balance, no, just out of.
What's the number?
667,
The miscellaneous one?
that's the miscellaneous revenue, yes.
So we're moving from miscellaneous 667
Yeah,
to these two other accounts.
correct.
And you had expenditures of your trip to Traverse City,
Yes,
and will they be charged out to education and training?
yes, and they'll be covered with the new budget.
So basically money came in and we're putting that into that category to pay for it.
Yes,
So it's no more money that we have in our budget. It's money that was given to us for this purpose.
So the contribution, the revenue
Mhm.
that is received will be enough, but the expense is going to be charged out to
and
education and
with
training.
with the budget amendment, we will be well within,
The 1,800 will cover that.
yes.
Okay.
But you're not putting 1,800 in there, you're just increasing them.
That's a
Right.
plus 1,800.
No,
No, it's
I'm
300.
sorry, let me start over. So we're gonna put $800 into the education and training to grand total of 1,800.
Okay.
And $150 in the workman's compensation expense to a grand total of 300.
Okay. And these
Both
are-
would come out of the miscellaneous revenue because I do know for a fact that that's where when I gave the city the stipend, that's where they put it, was in that revenue.
And the stipend was, I'm sorry,
The stipend was 800.
800.
So
So that's gonna be an additional revenue, so that miscellaneous revenues is gonna go up by 800.
Yeah.
Correct?
that's correct.
But then it's gonna be going right back down.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, the point I'm making here is that, we need to make sure that we amend budgets before expenditures hit and put us over. And then I go back, and again, I apologize for not being here, but I believe Tony talked about a couple of meetings ago that we were talking about having the expenditures for the month being presented, the bills, the vendors, and those charges that are coming in, so that we could at least review them and see them. And then they would be charged out to the various accounts, and we know they'd be passing through. In other words, we'd be ahead of it. Because my understanding under the Budget Act is you don't do this retroactively. You don't go over your budget and then come back and amend it.
We're not, so we do this every year, more than once. Because of things that come out differently than you project them to be. So I agree with what you're saying in principle. But, you know, at the end of the year, we change it. And we do it mid-year as well as a standard practice. And I think we all talked about the fact that with James coming in, we would set the budget the same as we had previously, knowing that we would have to adjust it more often.
Yes.
And so, not that, you know, so there are, yes, in the ideal situation, I would say, yes, we would do it the way that you're talking about. But there will by necessity likely be some situations where it will be after.
Then I respectfully disagree. The board goes through the budget process, and by line item account, we set the maximum amounts that the director, in this case, is allowed to spend. Under the State Budget Act.
Yeah.
Whatever laws, pick a number, whatever act it is, he is not allowed to exceed that amount unless there's an action by the board to amend that.
You have to remain in compliance, and compliance is ran when the audit is ran. And I've talked to the city finance director, I've talked to several directors at the conference about this, and they have all said the same thing. You can absolutely go over. However, it's completely up to the board. You just have to be in compliance by the time you submit your final, which is make sure everything is in the black at the final time you submit your budget. You can go in and amend the budget however many times you want, whatever you want. It is up to the board to decide when, you know, okay, let's amend the budget this month, let's amend the budget that month. I know that we're gonna do it next month. I was planning on it, so I have a bunch of like, I was gonna kind of have a couple of budget amendments for next month, because November historically is when we've done it. But as long as we're within compliance, we don't really have to worry about it. However, I do see your side of it. It's like, yeah, I don't want to be in the red either, but now we know that for next year's budget, we might want to plan for a little bit more for these line items because they went over already.
Well, again, I respectfully disagree that the act says that when you're aware of the fact that you're going to go over a particular item, you have to take action to address that and make sure funds are allocated for that.
Which is what we're
Are we
doing.
doing that?
That's what we're
Aren't we
doing.
doing that?
We are doing that right now, but last year, on June 30th, or towards the end of this last budget year, we made some amendments, we made some adjustments. And if we take a look at the June 30th audit numbers that came from the city, we ended up exceeding those budget line items in 6 different areas as we finished the year June 30th.
It does show we have room for improvement, then we can
Yes,
try
we
to
did
work
do a great
to
enough
move that
budgeting.
out a little bit.
So we're getting close. Please don't misinterpret this. We're getting so much better and it's there, but it's just that I want him to run with this and I feel comfortable with it. But I also want to make sure there's a system in place that we don't walk in and I get the revenue and expenditure report from the city. And it says we're $800 over a line item in October that we just started in July. And no one told me we needed to amend this. These are small amounts. Okay, James, please know, these are very small amounts we're dealing with.
Yeah.
But the principle behind this is that we set your limits for the year, run with it. If we need to amend, you, and you're aware that it's going to exceed, you need to let us know so we can amend. And then find those monies for us. Where's that coming from? To stay within the total. Okay.
Okay, I get your point.
Okay.
$800 one, he found the extra money any, like there, that was an additional revenue because he'd applied from the stipend from the state. So-
Yes.
So it's truly not an additional expenditure.
Yes, it's a nice, but keeping the budget in compliance, to use the term. The revenues are there, the expenditures are there, everything balanced, and I mean every month, but that's okay.
I think we get the point. Yeah.
I do have the motion of 11,000 to proceed with the projects. Seconded.
Oh, we did that, we did that, we did.
Passed.
We did that.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're now on to moving $950 from 667 in the amount of 800 to 271,790,930.300 and 150 to 271-790-917.000. That's
so we're taking 950.
50 and then putting 800 into 271-790-930.300 and 150 together add up to 950 into 271-790-917.000.
I therefore make that motion.
I gotta correct the numbers.
Huh?
The miscellaneous line is 677.000.
677.
Yeah.
667 is a rental income.
Oh, thank you. 677.
Yeah.
Dot
677.
000.
Dot 000.
Yeah. Okay.
So, okay, got it.
Yeah.
That's your motion, Tony?
That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we got Tony and John with a second. Any further discussion on that one? I'll go around again. Mark,
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
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 And I'm a yes too. Thank you. All right. We are on to new board tasks for the director. Anything that anybody has on their minds?
I think we've given one enough.
Yeah, as far as we got some good things to talk about next month, please leave it up.
You have one, Ron?
yeah, just one, lease, the lease with the city.
Yep.
I would please ask the director to talk to the city assessor, real estate person, somebody. Read that lease and please tell me how much land, okay, draw a line around, how much land, including this building, did the city lease to us?
We know that. And we also are asking them for some options.
Oh, okay, so
so-
you're already looking into that?
Yes,
Chairs are-
we've been talking to them.
Okay,
for a
sorry.
little- It's okay. We probably pretty quick here will have some information to bring back to the board.
Do you know how much it is right now? The size or the
yeah.
boundaries?
Yes, we are clear on that. Yep.
And that is,
It's what we have understood it to be previously. The question is ultimately what we want to do with a couple of pieces of information. For example, this thing that's being built out here.
yeah. That's fine.
You know, again, we have an agreement that was agreed to 15 years ago,
Okay,
about what would be done within that
yeah,
footprint.
okay,
And all of the people at the city are gone, and all of the most of the people that were
Were
here
involved?
are not here
Okay.
any longer, and so we'll have some choices.
That's room for improvement for us.
And
Just don't give them a 6-month notice.
the goal ultimately is for us to have something that is reviewed in a more timely manner than 15 years. So that if conditions change or whatnot, adjustments can be made to that.
then the picture, the aerial picture at the end of the lease that showed the description of the parcel that is listed in the lease is the total area that was leased to us by the city, which includes the building. Correct?
As of right now, yes.
As of right now, yeah.
So the whole thing,
Yes.
all the way to the trail, all the way up to Pine Street.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, but you're in discussions.
Yes.
You talked about it.
Yeah,
everything.
and, you know. I don't wanna say too much right
Well, no,
yet, because
no,
it's not,
yeah, That's
we're
fine.
not ready. to
It's
talk
a,
yet,
it's
but-
a thing that I read that and I said, is this
Yeah.
You know, true or not. Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, so,
Then please take that, that's all, no reply.
okay. All right,
Thank you.
okay. Anything else from you?
Just
Okay. Go ahead.
how's that survey that you're doing about what people have in their books?
That's gonna be something we talk about next time.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then, any other items that people want on, can think of that they would like on the agenda at this time for now? Obviously, we're gonna do, but we're gonna look at the budget, because that's our standard time to do so. And so that should be on there.
Did we want to look at scheduling, a board dinner like over at the brewery in December?
Oh, yeah, let's put that on the agenda if we wanna do that, or, let's talk about that next time. Boards for. Okay,
And we need to alter our schedule for next year for a couple of days that he closed for like the Red Flannel Festival. Those weren't on the calendar.
On the website?
not, there is a list of dates that the library will be closed. That are
Oh,
pre-scheduled, and so you're just saying clean it up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
all right, anything else? Okay,
I look forward to your report for next month.
and I don't know of any informational items at this time. Do you have any, James?
There's a link to what the city,
Oh, yeah.
2017, through, what was it? 2017 through 2036, downtown development district plan.
Sounds good, so, all right, thank you. Anything else? No. Is there a second option for public comment, if anybody would like to talk to us for 2 minutes?
Well, I'm retiring from city council, most people know that, but I've been on DDA for 10 years also. So I've had this discussion many times, and when we started in 2014, our budget was $500 a year. So we didn't do much. Fortunately, Mike, 3 city managers later, went back and revamped the whole thing. Months, it took him months. And so we actually created a real DDA and started using that money. And then when Cammie came along, she says, let us know. And we had no idea. We thought this was public property, that the library was paying DDA money. We were all kind of shocked. And so we kind of began a discussion, what are we gonna do? So I called up the library one day and I needed to talk to Cammie. Well, she's out shoveling the sidewalks. And I said, come on, you guys, when they're paying DDA money, how come we aren't shoveling the sidewalks? So we did put money in for shoveling sidewalks the last 2 or 3 years, I'm not quite sure. So anyway, there wasn't $4,000 coming in 10 years ago, but anyway, in my opinion, I guess I probably shouldn't say this, but I think the library should be in charge of their DDA money. It's a public service. You got sidewalks. And that's my opinion. Maybe someday we'll be voting on that at some point, I hope. So anyway, thank you for going to all these educational things. I know how they are important and how you've learned and how I've watched what you learned at those. I really appreciate that. And I guess that's about it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, board comments, we'll start. So then just walk around. Okay. Michelle?
I'm good too.
I appreciate the comments about the COVID test to somebody who need it this time of year. They may become very valuable. It's good to push it as a public.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. good one for the city. And
Thanks.
I know it's a deal.
I just want to say, James, I really appreciate your leadership. I appreciate you clarifying your role for us. And boy, I appreciate you going and sitting through webinars. Those are good times. Yeah. Thank you for all your work.
And I appreciate it too. We talk about this and James, I can't help it. James can do this. Let's add this to the plate. you know? So thanks for being.
I'll just say, I appreciate the openness and the learning that we are all doing. You know, I know, being in a situation on a board like this, we all take our responsibilities very seriously. We are very lucky to have the caliber of director that we have. And it has been a situation where we've all gotten to learn a little bit about like how much we can really truly depend on him. And what doesn't require us to be in the weeds of any longer, which is really fantastic. And helps us to focus on what our real work is. And I think as we continue on, we're all going to get better at that, and myself mostly, and it will help continue to make this asset to the community even better than it is already, which is cool to be part of. So thanks. I'll take it. Whoever wants to make that.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor? Say
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Yep. That's all set. Thank you.
James, I gave these back, right?
Not the audit, just the bank
Oh,
statements.
sorry.